The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of those knuckleheads of liberty podcasters, daring to voice opinions outside the mainstream of accepted thought. Listen if you dare. It's angry, it's funny, it's even sometimes sad, but it's always based on freedom and justice, as you will see. Here's our host, Jason McPhee.
Welcome to this special session of the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We are coming to you on election night, November 8th, 2022. And I'm here with my fellow knuckleheads, and even our invisible hand, James, is out tonight with us. And we're going to be talking about what we're seeing for about, maybe an hour or so, just giving some of our thoughts and insights into what we think's going on. So let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have our invisible hand, James Just. He's what makes all the magic happen behind the scenes, and he's also the Libertarian Party County Chair in Sacramento.
I'm not the invisible hand. I am the broken hand today.
Ah, yes. He broke his invisible hand doing who knows what.
Don't boast. You might have to tell the story of how he broke his hand. It's too embarrassing to tell.
There's no story to planet. Yeah, there's no story. Falling off a step stool is not a good story to tell.
Well, I think that's quite embarrassing. And I once broke my hand, dislocated my elbow, but I fell off a mango tree. So I got a very colorful story.
Well, see, James, this is why we keep you invisible, because who knows what's going to happen. Break something or whatever. So Leon, in our upper right-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty, is a retired engineer in the state of California. In my lower left-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host, I guess, tonight. I don't know. We're just kicking it around. We'll see what happens.
I'd just like to say that when you can't see your hand, it's easier to break it when you can't see it. It's invisible.
It's invisible.
We talked in our previous show about whether we were seeing a wave, and I guess that's what we're talking about now. It's actually 7:20 Pacific Standard Time right now, so I don't think the polls have closed yet here in California, but they have.
They close at 8 o'clock. The polls close at 8 o'clock here in California.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of a wait on some of that stuff, but we are seeing some results, and we saw a red tsunami hit Florida. A lot of other places, it's still a little early to tell. So we're seeing kind of some mixed results at the moment, but time will tell. What do you guys? I guess. When do you guys want to jump in and start talking about it?
Well, I'm just going to say that if there is a sudden shift. If it starts looking blue and blue and blue, and then after midnight, it just suddenly shifts for just an avalanche of red, then there's going to be some snickering going on in the morning by the blue side.
Yeah.
Reminiscent of last time. Anyway.
Well, this is the problem with the way we vote now. I mean, back when I was a kid 20 years ago, we would know pretty much by the time you went to bed, right? Except for a handful of close races, you would know pretty much before you went to bed what would happen. But now we have no idea for maybe a week because it takes forever to count ballots.
Yeah.
There's just something, whether there's nothing fishy going on, but somehow we've gone backwards.
Yeah.
Well, James, I don't know. I would not say that there is not something fishy going on, okay? All right. I think voter integrity is the most important thing that we can have as citizens of this great land. The problem that I see is that in too many states, and some of them are serious battleground states, their integrity is so low in terms of making sure that people can properly identify themselves, making sure that only legal voters can vote. Some of the states are not very good with these things. So we have some problems here where ineligible people are potentially voting. I think it happens, but I don't have good data on that. We have situations where they have rules within the state, and we have bureaucrats breaking the rules and telling people to do other things that are not in law. And that is going on in Pennsylvania. There have been a bunch of lawsuits being filed. There was even a lawsuit filed today about that matter. And all sorts of things are going on. So this issue of voter integrity, I think, is a big one. And we have to be careful in terms of protecting voter integrity, because the voter integrity is the foundation of our representative republic. And right now, we are not seeing what the polls were saying. I think maybe we have to wait a little while to see it all play out. But we were talking about a red tsunami or even a big red wave. I think Florida did show that, and they're very good. Florida have always been very good at counting their votes, and they give us the votes on time. I mean, you were talking about in days past gone, and days gone by, we used to be able to get it on the night, the election night, except for a few places where there were a close race, and it may extend to the next day or the next couple of days. But too often, we are seeing this thing being extended, sometime a week, sometimes as much as a week, sometimes even 8 days out, where they cannot give us the numbers. They can't tell us who won. They can't declare a winner. And we saw this in the 2020 election. And the most stark example of this actually happened in Pennsylvania. And I'm not talking any conspiratorial stuff here, okay? Trump, when we went to bed on election night in 2020, Trump was leading by 694,000 votes. I'm not saying 694 votes. I'm saying 694,000 votes. Somehow or the other, Joe Biden made up that, okay? But what happens, and what always happens, seems to be that anytime you see a vote is out on election night and extend into the next day, almost every single time, I can't even think about an exception right now, it's in a county controlled by the Democrats. In a county controlled by the Democrats. Almost every single time.
Well,
and it always been, and the results, of course, always benefit the Democrats. So I really don't know. I am not going to say there's not something nefarious going on. I'm not going to say there's something nefarious going on. There's an issue there that needs to be explored if we are to maintain our voter integrity.
I don't know if there's an issue that needs to be explored. I mean, Democrats kind of have big government solutions, and their big government vote counting just doesn't work very well.
Yeah, I don't know why you're surprised. You know, if you look at all these states where Democrats run, none of the bureaucracies work for crap except for tax collection. The only thing they can do well is collect money. That's it. That's all they can do well.
Yeah,
and maybe cheat on elections. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I mean, I don't know how many dead people are voting in Chicago today, but you know,
yeah. Or in Philadelphia, where there's a very, very close Senate race.
I just know we've been talking about dead people voting in Chicago for a century, right? It's been a running joke for a century.
Well, we know at least one brain dead person is running in Pennsylvania.
But you brought up election integrity, but which brings up to a question Tim kind of brought up in our chat earlier amongst ourselves. But you know why there's no libertarians running, right? There's no libertarians on the ballot. Well, here in California, it's really easy. It's the top two. Because of top two, there's no point. It comes to run as a libertarian especially on a statewide ballot, on a statewide thing. You have to run 2 full-fledged campaigns, and you have to do it early. And so it not only does it cost a lot of money, it costs a lot of time. And as a small party where you don't, you've got to work a job, you're a small party, it's all hustle. You don't have any infrastructure really to help you, because what infrastructure? There's not enough of us yet. And you're behind the 8 ball when you start. Like, if I wanted to run for office in 2024, I'd have to start essentially today. If I wanted to run for state assembly, and that's just state assembly, that's not even running for a bigger office, just state assembly, I'd have to start today. Essentially, I'd have to make the decision today, start going around, start building the team, start collecting money, start all that stuff today, just so I'm ready in
In 2
Or what would
years.
it be? January of 2023. No, it's November of 2023 when you have to start 2020. Yeah, 2023 when you have to start putting paperwork in. I think that's when your paperwork gets filed.
Okay. James, I can see the challenges that you just laid out. Okay, I'm not disagreeing with you. However, though, I have a real problem. So I was looking at the ballot today. Today I voted today. I was looking at the ballot, and this issue came up. There was not a single libertarian to vote for. Now I don't on statewide races. I normally vote the Republican for Republicans, but on the local races, I sometimes, most times, vote for the Libertarian candidate. I don't understand. This is where my confusion and my issues are with what you just said. I don't understand why we could not pick 3 or 4 local races and compete there. I
Well,
mean,
we
okay,
do
fine, maybe we can't run. Wait, let me finish, please. Maybe we cannot run statewide races. We are a small party. We are not a. We don't have the kind of resources that the Republican and the Democrats have. I will accept that argument. But what about the local races?
local
I mean,
races are nonpartisan, Leon. You don't get an L or an R or a D behind you, and you still have the same problem. And we actually do. We have a lot of mayors and city councilmen who run and win. But when you're talking about partisan races, you're essentially facing, not only are you facing an uphill battle, you're facing a long, long uphill battle without any support. And
without any from the state party is
from
what
the
they're talking
state
about.
party, from the national party, and when you look at the current state of the state and national party, not only are you looking at support, you can even consider it's a drag. So why would someone like me put in all my time, energy, and the credibility I have built up over the years? Why would I sacrifice all that?
And where are you going to get money from people to support you?
Well,
I mean,
well then, James, if that's what the problem is, then the Libertarian Party have a serious problem that need to be further explored seriously.
But
Well,
those problems could be solved but once the structure became so impossible to climb, right? You can't climb the structure. You cannot you used to be able to climb the structure. You used to have one person where you could theoretically, if you worked hard enough, if you knocked on enough doors, you could get through it, right? You're on the November ballot, and if you can get on the November ballot, all bets are off, right? You can screw up and win. But right now, you can't get on the November ballot because the primary races are essentially partisan activists who vote, right? It's only activists who vote in the primaries, and there's just simply not enough of us. When you got the vote blue no matter who crowd, and you got the better red than dead crowd, what are you going to do?
Yeah, this is the two-party duopoly system we've been coming up against so many times in so many places. It's like they get in there and they set the rules, and it's what's considered fair is what those two guys agree on, right? Team Red and Team Blue amongst themselves. And of course, if you're not in Team Red or Team Blue, then too bad for you.
Yeah, and then they pass these propositions like Prop 14, which is the top two. They say, "Oh, it will create these sold it as it will make more centrists on the ballot, right? It will create more centrist candidates," which never made any sense because it qualifies as early money makes the most difference now, and who has the early money is the most activist or the most politically connected. They have the money early, so they've got the biggest lead. And so it was always going to screw over the little guy. It was always planned to screw over the little guy.
Yeah.
And the other thing they told us was it was going to increase voter participation, which again made no sense. I don't know where they're making that connection, but voters bought it because the vote blue no matter who crowd will buy anything they're freaking fed.
Well, that part is definitely true. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous today that we were looking at the ballot today, and there was one race or 2 races where the 2 candidates were both Democrats.
That's one of the issues I wanted to bring up because James also has a good explanation for that as well. And James, did you want to, you fill us in on that? Why we get 2 Democrat candidates potentially instead of,
It's back to the top 2. It's in order to keep people like me off the ballot. They run 2 Democrats or 2 Republicans in the primary, so someone like me can't slip in as a write-in candidate, get on the top 2 ballot, and run a cheap campaign, which is how I got in on my campaign in 2020. There was no opposition, so after that, the official filing period ended. I went out. I got a handful of signatures. It cost me nothing to get on the ballot. Then when the primary came in, I wrote myself, a handful of people vote for me. Yay! I come in second. I'm on the ballot.
And think about.
And then I get to run, and I did fairly well. I actually got I forget what it was, 25%, something like that, 29%, something like that. Only spending $1,500.
Yeah.
So the reason they do that is because you can be effective.
Yeah.
But they lock you out.
And that's one of the things I wanted to mention too, is because James, when you said you got you said around 25%, but wasn't that was that what, 20,000 or 15,000? I mean, how many votes was that as far as raw votes?
It was like 50,000 votes. Yeah.
50,000. Okay, so 50,000 votes. That many people without putting in, a ton of resources. That means there's a big block of people who just want to vote against a Democrat, in some of these places, and potentially in a Republican stronghold that want to vote against a Republican. But if they just run 2 guys, then essentially they neutralize all that. If the opposing red or blue duopoly team doesn't bother to put a candidate in there because they don't want to spend the money. So
yeah. I lost my train of thought.
Well, whatever. I mean, obviously, being a small party and being maybe not as well known as the Republicans and Democrats. Of course, there are going to be serious challenges in us, in the Libertarian Party, I should say, in overcoming the hurdles. But we have to have some plan of action going forward. Otherwise, we'll always be having this problem. Otherwise, 20 years from now, we're going to be talking about the same thing.
Yeah, but as we found out, Larry Sharp found out, when you overcome the hurdles, they just raise the hurdles.
Yeah,
that's all that happens. It's the same thing with me. Once they figured out that someone can be effective cheaply, what did they do? They changed their strategy.
Yeah,
and I'm left with now I have to figure out a counter strategy, and we simply haven't figured it out yet. It's only been a couple of years, right? It takes time to figure out the strategies to beat these things, but they keep changing it.
And specifically what Larry Sharp found out was that they increased the number of signatures he had to have the next time around. So he got on the ballot one time. He only had some low threshold of signatures to go through to get on the ballot. And because he got on the ballot that time, they just changed the rules against him, both the Democrats and Republicans, so that therefore they could maintain their duopoly and not have to worry about a spoiler.
Yeah. Not only did they raise the signatures, they changed the time frame. So now instead of raising them in the spring and summer, he has to raise them in the winter.
Yeah. And for our listeners, Larry Sharp is the candidate. He's running for governor in New York. So he is a very popular libertarian who has sort of national recognition among libertarians. And he's just, they just keep throwing up roadblocks. So he's having to do a write-in campaign. And, he'll probably be lucky to get a few percent of the vote if he does. But
what's his status right now? Have you heard?
I'm not sure.
We ain't hearing nothing about third-party candidates tonight. So far.
Part of that duopoly thing.
The Republican and Democrat stuff being reported. And just for anybody listening to the show or whatever, we have had Larry Sharp on our show twice in the last year, I think, Jason, twice in the last year.
We had him on this year, and then the previous year we had him on.
Yeah.
So yeah, so yeah.
So it looks like Dr. Oz is winning. So you gave a brain dead guy or a brain dead guy?
Yeah.
Didn't I say something about?
I don't know.
Actually, that was the point of. I actually wanted that. Jason made a good point where half your support is actually not supporting you. It's actually just opposed the other guy, and that's true all across the board. So if you think about it, a lot of our political candidates, they win in office, and they're going to impose their worldview on people, but half of their support doesn't actually agree with them. They just don't like the other guy. And so they don't actually have support for their programs that they pretend they do. Yeah. And yet they act like they do.
It's on Ballotpedia. It says that Larry Sharpe, Libertarian Party, ran for election for governor of New York. He will not appear on the ballot for the general election on November 8th, 2022. So his name did not get on the ballot. And now...
Yeah, his write-in campaign is what he's been running. So...
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's actively running a write-in campaign right now. So it's write-in Larry Sharpe if you want to vote Libertarian in New York. That's and of course it's too late now because their polls are closed.
Yeah.
unless you're one of those election workers who's just adding a few signatures.
They cure ballots. They cure ballots. Yeah. Here the word is they cure ballots. Imagine that. Bureaucrats. Ballots.
Well, apparently the write-in votes in New York gubernatorial race was a total of 730.1 of 1% of the total.
Okay.
In 2022. In 2020?
No, in 2022. I'm sorry. No, did I say that? No, this tonight. So far the results are for the write-in votes. That's everybody. That's people writing Santa Claus in 730 total, which is a tenth of a percent.
Yeah, well, I didn't vote, so there you go.
I didn't vote.
There's
didn't vote?
A little polling place in my place of work, and I did not vote because I am tired of voting against things, and so if I don't have anything to vote for, I ain't voting.
Okay.
Damn.
Yeah.
Not good.
Right. I don't blame your cynicism.
It's not even cynicism. I just don't want I'm just tired of everything being negative. I just didn't want to do it. I just didn't want to do it.
All right.
I think it's gonna matter. I live and vote blue no matter who hell, so it's not gonna freaking make a goddamn bit of difference.
Yeah.
I tell you though, the problem is that we get so many people who are just voting. I mean, essentially, it's a all or nothing prospect, right? I mean, we've let government become such a big part of our lives that if you wind up losing, you lose big. I mean, because so many different things go against you if you wind up getting the wrong. I mean, look at all the actions that happened this last year with Joe Biden getting into power. How many things happened? And of course, before him, Donald Trump did a lot of things with executive action. And then before that, it was Barack Obama. But man, if you have the party behind you and the power of that executive pin, it's like, what's that?
That was dumb. Ow, that hurts.
Well,
they're going like this, I guess.
Well, to make my point, and I'm actually going to go to the shared screen just in case anybody's watching and they want to see a visual. I just want to show the size of government again. I mean, we've gone through this chart a million times. And by the way, if you go out past this end, it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. That's because you're heading toward the birth of the country. And it was just government was a lot smaller. But you get up to World War I, World War II, you start to see these big spikes. And this is debt to GDP as a percentage. And it's just, you hit 100% in World War II. And then we sort of climbed our way out of that with productivity, not really paying off our debts. We never pay off our debts. But if we get more productive, the picture looks a lot more like we could pay off our debts.
I have to, but Jason, I have to tell you an extremely important piece of that puzzle you see with that peak at World War II and the subsequent drop off. The peak represents 120%, or a little, actually 100, and it was like 102
a little over 100%,
or something.
Yeah,
of GDP, but the debt was owned by Americans. Mm-hmm. So it was debt that was not made with brand new money that was printed up by the Fed, like you see on the far right. It was already existing money that was moved from the possession of the average American citizen and given to the government to spend on the war effort in World War II. And so that money was all used up. But now, when the government is collecting already existing dollars, they're paying off debt held by those Americans with already existing dollars. So it's just a rotationary thing as they bring tax money in and don't do deficit spending. I'll bet you. Yeah, look at the other. See if it's the same. Yeah, same time period. Look at the whole total deficits on the top part there. It just goes flat, on that other graph. So that represents the government was not going into debt. They were paying. They were paying their debt off as they went along with tax money. And so, but now they create all this debt, and you can see it in the over there. Now they have all this. And now that's all brand new money that comes at a cost, and we're reaping the rewards of it today in inflation. So I think it's an important distinction.
I'll see if I can find a chart that shows GDP by itself over time, but I suspect that GDP just is ramping up this whole time because that's essentially measuring what we produce. And of course, after World War II, we were the only productive economy. Everybody else was just, building, picking up the rubble and stuff. So, I mean, at least this particular graph, since this is a ratio, it's possible we were paying something off, but we were definitely, a lot of this is because our productivity was just shooting up. So if we weren't building up more debt, then it was just like, okay, but here you get to this end and oh my gosh, this is terrible. I mean, we're literally just here we had the Iraq war that we went into, and we had the housing bailout, and then you wound up hitting gosh, I can't even remember what the hell we did here to waste money. Probably all that Iraq war money spending.
Well, it wasn't even the Iraq. If you hit the Iraq war was 2001, right? 2002. So that was
2001 was the 9/11 thing, and then so then you had Afghanistan.
The housing thing. It's the housing crisis. The Senate that housing crisis, which was created by anti-growth policies. By the way, just to point people out.
Well, and cheap money issues too, because what they were trying to do was prop up the economy by keeping interest rates low, and encouraging people to make purchases. So we keep everything afloat while the war was going on, and so you had all that happening, and then of course here we have the COVID crisis where it just shoots up steeper than just about anything else you can see there. That
wasn't a COVID crisis. It was a. I mean, stop blaming COVID for.
Sure, I agree. It's government policy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the hell to call it, but it's not COVID crisis. Yeah. COVID was just a bad
COVID cover.
I get tired of people. It was the pandemic. No, it was a response to the cold. It was a response to a cold that the thing was. It wasn't the pandemic. It was your damn response to it.
Well, it was definitely the government policy.
Yeah.
So you essentially tell people not to produce, which brings down productivity. At the same time, you're shoveling money into the economy, because I believe we've increased the money supply by 41% or something over that period of time or something.
Yeah, some ridiculous number like that. Yes.
Yeah. So it's just ridiculous. And then of course, this is our government numbers. This is the Congressional Budget Office, what they put out, and they're not optimistic about the future. They think this is the direction we're headed. So
federal debt held by the public.
Yeah.
All right.
To solve that problem, stop buying freaking debt. But that's the way to solve
it. I don't mind. I don't mind selling bonds so somebody earns $100. And they get paid by their employer the $100, and now they have the $100 and they put it in their savings account. Now they want to take that $100 and give it to the government by buying a treasury bond, a treasury note. Okay, I have no issue with that whatsoever. You are transferring existing monetary currency essentially, and you're switching it into a debt instrument. You're just having a swap there. It's just no net change monetarily, and I like that. I think that's fine.
Well, except you're funding all this explosive size and increase of government spending.
Well, okay. Let's assume
you're facilitating it. You're giving them the money to actually go off and continue to spend more and more money. At some point, you have to cut off the supply.
Okay. You're assuming
now,
that
individuals have enough power to do that, because you can always just go to some quasi-government and change zeros around, but that's a whole different issue.
Well,
but if we don't give them the money,
if
we don't give them the money, if we don't lend them money, they don't have any money to spend.
Yes, they do. They do,
no,
because they just print it
but
up.
Eventually, that house of cards will fall.
Well, that's the whole issue. That's why we're seeing a change between post World War II and the recovery and today's massive, even by a long shot more of debt. I mean, a lot of these charts, if they're talking about public debt, I mean, let's look at total debt too. I don't know, maybe that is total debt, because it looked like it was.
The chart that I'm showing here now is just showing GDP growth over time by itself. So you're looking from 1929 to roughly 2019, and of course, right around that time, it shows the GDP going down. That would probably correspond to us, telling people to stay home. I'm guessing. I'm not sure if that's heading off into 2020. Yeah. So this is showing the numbers for 2020. Those last numbers where it dips down. So that's COVID right there. So
move that.
Not COVID, but government COVID response.
Okay. So move that. Get that thing out of the way. Okay, no, totally get that square you have. Can you get that? There you go. So you see where the blue line, what is the blue line? It's GDP, and then you see the whatever that color is, real
GDP.
Real GDP. Now, why is it that in around 2010, 12, around there, you have a cross? You've got GDP is still climbing. As a matter of fact, it's climbing at a steeper rate, while real GDP is flattening off, and they cross right there.
Well, it's not flattening off; it's still going up. It's not going up as fast as.
I don't know.
They're both going. They're both. You can track them year by year. They're both going up. I mean,
it's not okay, but it's not steepening up to parallel the blue thing. That's what I meant.
Yeah. The other is going up faster. Yeah.
Right. The other one's going up faster. Well, how can that be unless it's from government spending? Because that's counted in GDP, but they're not in real GDP. So what that's saying is that while real GDP started to not steepen so much, the GDP counted in, which includes government spending, is continuing its steepened climb. And it's because when I see that chart, my answer would be because government continues to spend, because they never slow down, and they don't have to. They just print the money and spend it into the economy. That's what I think you're seeing there.
Well, real GDP just means it's inflation adjusted. That's all it's meaning. So is that
the definition they're using there?
That's the definition that I just looked up for real GDP. So I'd have to.
Okay. Well,
but
I've seen other charts. I guess it's not called real GDP, but it's the GDP from the market economy. That's the only source of the money. It comes from no other place other than printed money, which really isn't real. But I mean, the wealth of the nation comes from the free market, and only the free market. That's my point.
There's lies, damn lies, and statistics. That's
yeah.
The only important real thing to understand from all this is that the trends are all upward in spending and in a bad direction with debt. That's the key.
That's for sure.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Yes.
How about the direction of the economy? Is it flourishing? Is it just like making money hand over fist?
Well, GDP is supposed to be kind of the reflection of that, right? That's sort of the generic reflection of how. Now, granted, the problem with GDP is if you're spending to replace stuff in a disaster, they call that a positive GDP number. So, that broken window fallacy sort of works its way into GDP at that point. But so I don't think that's it's necessarily the best metric, but I guess it could be improved somehow, but it's a metric anyways. But yeah, you see that GDP went down in 2020, and that's because of the COVID response, where they told people, hey, stop producing, stay home. Literally the stupidest advice they could give people when we're in as much debt as we have, which is, we were at about 29 trillion when all that was happening, I think. So it's just absolute insanity. And then to top it off, it wasn't like they said, oh, and consume less. It was like, stay home, stop producing, and oh, by the way, here's some piles of money we're going to throw at you too. So
Herschel Walker is winning.
Yeah, Herschel Walker is winning.
Doesn't he need to get 50% or get a runoff?
Yeah, he got to get over 50%. He's not far from it, but I don't think it doesn't look like he's going to make it. Johnson is in Wisconsin is barely ahead of Barnes. Okay, can't understand. Okay. Grassley in Iowa won. Mike Lee is crushing somebody named Macmillan or something like that. That's in Utah. Nothing from Alaska as yet. Yeah, that's what we have right now. Walker. In Ohio, Vance is leading. Fetterman is leading in Pennsylvania. I can't even believe that one.
Well, it's because you got two morons running. It's just flip a coin.
But I mean, at least one
party hacker another. You're not going to make a difference.
One moron doesn't even sound like he even could make a sentence.
Yeah, but they're just going to do what they're told, so it doesn't really matter. They're just going to do what the powers that be tell them to do. So the staff's going to run that office. That's all I'm saying. That's an office run by staff and partisan hacks. That's all. It's just,
Yeah. Well,
pick your choice. If you prefer Team Blue, you'll like the blue guy winning. If you prefer Team Red, you want the red guy winning. But fundamentally, it's just going to be a team player.
Dr. Oz, he represents something that is, I'm not thrilled about with politics. I don't know a lot about his candidacy, to be fair, but I did see him in the debate with Fetterman, and I watched that whole thing, which was an absolute train wreck. By the way, I've never seen a person start the debate off with "good night." But anyway, as far as Dr. Oz goes, if you noticed a lot of his answers, he just kept saying, well, I want to be the party who's the non-extremist, the person who's going to get the middle decision. And as libertarians, we understand, because you aren't in the, compromise isn't necessarily the solution, right? I mean, well, we may have ideas that reflect both Republican and Democrat, but that doesn't mean we're in the middle, right? I mean, our ideas are based on principles, right?
Yeah.
And they all come down to liberty and self-ownership, and that's where we're coming from with all these things. And to just see somebody say, well, we're just going to find out whatever the middle spot is, and that'll make you happy. And that's not,
it's the assumption that the morality is in the center. The center has some moral standing by itself just because it's the center. It is kind of strange, right? The center can be just an evil's place as the left or the right, depending upon the scale, right?
It's true.
Yep.
I mean the whole big word in Washington D.C. is compromise. You have to be bipartisan and all that kind of stuff. But does that give you the best result?
Compromise is not the same thing as centrists. Compromise doesn't make the center, right?
Yeah, it's true. Okay, fair enough. That's true. Yes.
But that's, I think, what we as the populists have come to confuse being the center and compromising. As you take one position, you take the other, and I will split it the difference, and that's a compromise. That's not really a compromise. That's a pretend compromise, because no one's actually compromised. No one sat down and worked through all the issues and figured out, okay, I'll give some up on this thing that I don't really care about so much. you can have that thing over there that you care a little bit more about than we do, and we'll work it out. One of the greatest compromises I like to bring up is the Alaskan pipeline. Oddly enough, once the decision to force it to be done, the oil companies and the environmental activists got together and actually created a solution that actually worked for everybody. It actually made the pipeline better, and it protected the environment. And so by genuinely working together and genuinely coming together with actual compromises, not compromises that are kind of phony and forced because it's the theoretical center, but compromises that are, genuinely beneficial for both sides or actually accomplish both goals, at least somewhat, right? We still got an oil pipeline and we still protected the environment. You can do both, but you have to get out of your trenches in order to do it. And no one wants to get out of their trenches today because, as Jason brought up, there's so much at stake in government in winning and losing that you have no choice but to fight. And so everybody wonders why we're fighting.
Yeah. And
right?
That's because it's so large. I mean, that's what I was trying to bring up, by the way, with that other chart. You could see how you can kind of trace that debt to GDP, and that's showing you roughly how big government is becoming relatively, to the size of the economy, and it's just huge. And so that means it's impacting all these areas of our lives. And so it's not like if you lose an election, you just lose maybe a preference on how much free money goes to education or something like that. I mean, you're losing stuff in every aspect of your life. How much money you're subsidizing maybe farmers for, what kind of tariffs are going up at the border, all these different things, what kind of climate policy you're going to have. Just everything is sweeping in one direction or another that's impacting maybe 40 or 50% of your life and growing. I mean, it's just so this is why you don't want to have government so big, because then we can all just get along. If we don't agree in the end, your decision to go off and do your thing isn't going to impact me that much if government is small. But if everything is tied into government, then if you want to do one thing, you're going to drag me along with you. And that's what sucks. So I think that's a big reason to be a libertarian. Yeah. Gosh, you were talking about something else there too before I wanted to jump in on, but compromise. One of the issues with compromise too, because I've had these discussions a lot lately with family members and other stuff, and it's one thing that we may have to compromise with people on whatever the other side of the political issue is. But always make sure that the principles are clear before the compromise is made, because you got to know with people what the destination is, what the real goal is. Otherwise, if you make these compromises like you see so many politicians do, it's like, well, what's the actual destination? You just see these compromises without principle, and then it's just sort of, well, where are we going? It's just a little more blue, a little more red. I don't even know what the hell that means. All I know what it does mean is that we're spending more on government every year. That's all I do know. So.
Well. I mean, until we make some fundamental changes to government, we're gonna keep on having these problems that where spending is going up and up and up, and they're gonna tax us more to take care of the spending, and they're gonna go into their deficits in their deficit spending. They're gonna keep on printing money and gonna suffer in bouts of inflation as we are right now. Until we make some fundamental changes, nothing is going to happen. I hope we don't lose our republic in the process.
Well,
yeah,
Tim.
Sorry, radio station issues.
Yeah. Well, not that now that I had a brain fart and screwed up about that real GDP, and Jason came in and got that straightened out. But anyway, this bottom line, the big line, 2031 expected interest payments from just interest on the debt. And the blue one is 2021 versus 2031. And you can see that all the other governmental programs are just not climbing at the same rate as the interest on the debt. So So just paying the interest on the debt by 2031 is just going to take a whole lot more of expenditures, and it's going to take them away from someplace. So, or they're just going to print more debt to pay off the debt, the interest on the debt.
Sure.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Oh, they're going to use their credit card to pay the interest on the credit cards that they already have.
I've been pointing this out for a long time. There's going to be a point where just the interest debt service is going to be a huge ass problem. Just servicing the debt is already a huge chunk of change, but it's going to become a problem.
Well, that's what this article is talking about. Is that it's actually quite expected to be quite low over the next 5 years, which I thought was odd. But then it's just gonna, in the 2030s, it's just gonna skyrocket. Just skyrocket.
But besides all that, we have a lot of unfunded liabilities that
too, right?
Yeah, that we are not dealing with. I mean,
unfunded liabilities can just be ignored, right?
Why?
Just change them.
You could what?
No, they can't be ignored.
Yeah, it's just a law, Leon. Laws can be
okay. Okay, yeah, they could.
No,
James, no.
Yes, they will.
No, he's right about that. You know, it's like, and you know, who's going to get angry about that? Well, people with gray hair like me.
Okay, let me break in. Newsflash.
Okay.
J.D. Vance defeated Tim Ryan in Ohio. It's a Republican hold, so that doesn't change anything in terms of the balance of power. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, at least he keeps it from going in the wrong way. And by the way, when I say in the wrong way, I'm not ecstatic about Republicans winning, but I am terrified of these insane Democrats holding on to power.
my sentiments exactly, because I am looking at the way I look at things right now. Okay, I consider myself a conservatarian, and I look at the ballots and who is the lesser of the two evils that I have to deal with, and the Republicans win that question every single time.
I want a completely locked up Washington, D.C. Yes, I want it to be able to do absolutely freaking nothing.
That's probably the wisest thing. I mean, the best thing would be just a small government that we don't have to pay any attention to. But if it's going to be large, probably best that it's all tied up and can't do anything. Yeah.
The less it can do, the better off we're all going to be.
You're damn right. I mean, this is why I'm saying that we need to have term limits on legislation and legislators. We need that. We really do. Otherwise, nothing is ever going to change.
I agree with you on legislation, Leon, but I don't know. Here in California, the term limits on legislators have just meant that the party runs the state. So all it's meant. It hasn't done anything. You could actually make an argument that we're worse off now than we were before, when we had Willie Brown having a power broker running the state. You know, he was more willing to actually compromise, to genuinely compromise, than these hacktivists who run California now, because they're all activists. There's no real politicians anymore. There's no real politicians, no activists.
New Hampshire Senate race decided in favor of the Democrats. Margie Hassan has beaten General Bolduc. So that it's a hold for the Democrats. It doesn't change the balance of power.
No. Even though if you look, there's a big, huge red map, though. If you look at the CNN map, the House map, it's all red.
It's all red? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a handful. The upper right is blue, and then there's some blue dots like Colorado. Mexico, I think, is what the other one is. Colorado, New Mexico are blue. But other than that.
By the way, I don't know if maybe I could share a screen again. So I've actually got the U.S. debt from the Fed. That's the St. Louis Federal Reserve, I guess. But they have a great way to do a lot of charts and everything over there. But if you look at this, it's just awful looking at this debt over time. I mean, you see how it's just accelerated in these last few years. I mean, look at this giant spike with COVID response that happens there. So, and of course, it's closing in on 32 trillion So
Yeah, and we're paying for that.
Damn.
I just want to put that massive spike we're paying for with inflation right now. As Tim likes to continually point out, that's your inflation right there. That massive little spike. That's the inflation we're feeling. That little spike. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That has to be paid for. We're paying for it right now.
Yeah.
In my narrowly defined definition of inflation, yes, that's exactly correct.
And to be honest, I mean, we're seeing inflation from all this too. It's just a lot more modest inflation that we just sort of look past in our everyday life. But with this getting so big that you just can't look past it anymore. I mean, the prices are starting to change radically to where, you know, the amount of money that you make suddenly doesn't buy as much anymore. So
that what was the meme back in 2020? Printer go burr. Well, now prices go burr, right? You had that printer running 24/7. Well, now guess what? Prices are rising 24/7. It's just a delayed response.
Yeah,
that's all it is. You know,
one thing too we ought to realize is these 2 years here are essentially under Biden. And keep in mind that he didn't get everything he wanted to spend. Okay, that's the scary part of the story here. This could be going up a lot, quite a bit higher. I think they stopped him from spending several trillion more dollars than he wanted to spend.
They did, yes.
Did you make Jason, when you positioned the left side time period, did you make allowance for the fiscal year that when the president takes over, he's still in the fiscal year of the previous president for, I can't remember, 6-8 months or something?
Yeah.
So in other words, he has no control over what happened before him.
Exactly. So he would have come in right about here, I guess, and then this part here would have been, I guess, increasing with Biden. So this is all
because
still
Biden
response.
has the only reason I say that is because Biden has been having less deficits than under Trump.
Yeah.
And part of that is because Trump they shut the economy down. Oh gosh, you're having less income or less revenues. I'd have to look at the revenues that we had actually, and I don't know how much less they were. Was it a big factor or whatever? But regardless, the government response to it was to print a bunch of money and pump it into the economy, much more than if you ask David Stockman, he'll continually point out that our hit during COVID was only $800 billion, the hit to the economy. However, the government response in the form of debt was like 3.2 trillion or something. So your response is what's
sorry,
that?
Tim, go ahead. No, I was changing subjects, so go ahead. I thought you were done.
Okay, I am done.
Well, I was just going to add one thing to what you were saying, though. Keep in mind, though, that when Trump did shut down the economy, in practicality, on Trump's side, he really only shut things down for a few weeks and wanted the economy back up and running right away. It was pretty much Democrats around the country and a lot of states that just wanted everything locked down. That was the problem. That's why Florida has been such a success story going into this election, because they resisted that and they got everything up and running a lot faster than everybody else did. So that's a big part of that story, I think.
Yeah, but this is where the disease of the media is really a problem in our society. I don't know if you guys remember, Florida was leading the way in trying to get things open, and so was Georgia. They're trying to get things open. But the great leadership, now these people, Kemp and DeSantis, was totally, they were demonized in the media for what they were trying to do. But if you remember, the person who they were talking about showing all this great leadership was that piece of crap in New York, Andrew Cuomo. Is Andrew? Yes, Andrew was his name, Andrew Cuomo. And now look at the results. Now that you look at things today, look at what have happened. Florida is a shining star. Georgia is heading that way, and Andrew Cuomo is disgraced and out of office. Speaking
of Georgia, Kemp has been projected to beat Abrams by 9 points.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay,
I thought 9.
yeah.
Well, you got Atlanta. That's the problem, right? Yeah. It's Atlanta is the only thing that's blue in Georgia.
That's true. Yeah. Well, it's Fulton County, which Atlanta is in Fulton County. It's heavily blue.
I'm just like, who are these 44% that think Stacey Abrams is,
Well,
a great idea for governor?
half of them are vote blue no matter who, and
That's
the
true.
other half can't stand Republicans. That's right.
There
That's
you go.
kind
That's
of
the
how it
whole
works.
story.
That's how it works. So,
Yeah.
that's how all these people win or get close. So,
Dirty dogs.
so let's see. The Democrat. Oh, New Hampshire. Leon got that one already.
Yeah, I got New Hampshire. Yeah, we got New Hampshire already. Yeah, Maggie Hassan have beaten General Bolduc.
Even though it looks like, I don't know, Leon. It looks
Jason.
like the Democrats are taking a beating in the House. I mean, I know
I
we
sent
don't
you
have
the
to,
link on Messenger.
Oh, if you can send me the link through this, because maybe I can email it to myself, and I'm not on.
Well, I can probably do that. You mean through the chat, through our show chat?
Yeah, that'd be great if you can send it there.
Boy, you really asking a lot. Golly, especially this late at night, for crying out loud. Here, let me get it off Messenger.
All right, Leon. So how many seats do you think the Republicans are going to get in the House? 230?
In the House?
230, 240?
I think between 230 and 235. I think it's going to end up. The Senate now, at first I was saying 52. Now I feel they might edge out 51, maybe.
Yeah, I'm still thinking the Senate going to be 50-50, which I wouldn't necessarily mind.
You think 50-50? Oh, wow.
I still do. I think I could based on nothing but gut instinct feeling, Leon. There's no logic to it. I didn't study a map or anything, but political instinct tells me it's going to come out to 50-50.
50-50. Well, then we back to where we were. But yeah, I think
Senate, a Republican House, and a Democrat president. I'm okay with it.
It's true. Well, then we get back to the whole issue of compromise to get anything done, right?
Yeah, that's the definition of do nothing Congress, and woohoo, it makes me happy.
Yes.
All right, Jason, I did it through here.
I think I have your
in the chat. That took a lot of brain power, by the way.
So this Walker-Warnock thing's going to go again, isn't it? And they're going to blame libertarians.
Yeah, they're going to have to go. They'll have to go to a runoff. Even though Walker seems to be ahead right now, but they're going to have to go to a runoff. Yes.
He's ahead by a percentage point, so Yeah. He's ahead by what, 40,000 votes?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, 40,000 votes with what, 86%? I think it said is what CNN's 87.
So Tim, what did you want to show us all here?
Oh, that was just where I got that graph that I was showing you earlier. It's coming up pretty soon here. There it is. Yeah. Okay. And the whole thing about the interest on the debt, what it's going to be, what they project it to be, put it that way. Of course, they preface that all with, it could be worse. Could be better. Could be worse.
It's hilarious watching CNN. They put a bunch of Republican things on, but anytime a projection it's a Democrat projection. Just watching it, I have yet to see them do a segment on a Republican win.
Yeah.
But anytime a Democrat wins, they do a thing on it.
It will be interesting. Oh, sorry.
I may have missed it because I haven't watched all of them, so maybe I missed the one they did on Kemp or something. But
it's almost like James is saying there's bias in the news.
How dare he say such a thing? How dare he? Well, if you guys, I don't know if you guys, when they had the runoff in Georgia for, I think it was January 2021, I believe it was, or something like that. I was watching CNN that night. I don't know even why I was watching CNN, but I was watching CNN. And it was so unbelievable to see Wolf Blitzer and the other guy who commentated there. I mean, they were talking about, how exciting it is that these two Democrats are going to take the 2 seats in the Senate, and that's going to give it a 50-50 Senate. And if you see these guys, I mean, these guys are the only thing they didn't do is pop the champagne, you know.
Well, you know,
They probably did that off camera.
Off camera, yeah.
We did a J.D. Vance in Ohio Senate.
Yes.
So they just defeats Tim Ryan.
Yeah. You know what would be funny is if in these echo chambers that we're living in nowadays, if we come back from watching our respective news channels tomorrow and Democrats are all cheering about how they had a blue wave and Republicans are all cheering about how they had a red wave. And everybody's just in their own reality.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
That'd be
if
something.
you think about it, it's not as unheard of as you think.
Yeah.
Democrats the news media had put up this whole red tsunami, right? So if it's anything less than a red tsunami, the rank and file Democrats can feel good,
Yeah.
right? Hey, we did better. We did better than we thought. We did better than we thought. And Republicans, oh well, we didn't do what we thought, so they're going to feel down. And so just by setting expectations before the election happens, you can adjust how people are going to feel, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay,
So
we have.
manipulating that expectation.
Okay,
I,
we
I
have
would
one.
like it. Oh, I'm sorry, Leon. Doggone
That's
it. I
okay.
keep
It's okay.
interrupting.
It's okay. It's okay.
You were saying.
We have one source saying that Kathy Hochul in New York is going to win over Lee Zeldin. It looks so.
Yeah, and that's like Governor Newsom losing to whoever the hell this dude is. Right? Yeah, of course. There was no chance that wasn't going to happen. They were lying. This whole notion, the race is tightening. No, it wasn't. Since when have the polls been right in the last few years? No poll is right.
Well, we would have known for sure it was maybe some chicanery if it had said, the polls are tightening, send Trump money now, and that'll help win.
Oh, God.
Well, that's all, you have to keep it interesting, right? I suppose.
Yes.
Well, in our fantasy scenario, what I'd like about it is nobody would be unhappy. There wouldn't be all this gnashing of teeth and pulling of hair that I see so often afterwards. Half of them are the world is, we're on the verge of a second nirvana, and the other half is thinking the sky is falling. So there's no in between, and I would like it if everybody was happy and just thought, we're on the greatest path, regardless. I mean,
yeah. Oh, sorry, Tim. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm done. Yeah.
Well, but
I keep interrupting you, and you keep saying you're done.
I'm done.
It's funny though. The only way we could ever get to a point where we could all be happy is really the libertarian way, because it's saying that it's a voluntary and everybody does their own thing, right? That's the closest you could possibly get to happiness. And if it's something where you got this big pile of money and it either goes in one direction or the other, you're never going to get happiness out of
the
that.
government won't be happy.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
You can't sell liberty though, Jason, because there's, you have to have restrictions on people to be able to sell it. It's like, okay, if I get elected, I'm going to put up a restriction that everyone has to join a union. And we know that, this is back in whenever Leon remembers, he's really good with this history, this whole union thing early in, what was it, the 20s, and the laws they made that required unions, Leon?
Yes.
Remember? Yeah, what was those laws called? You're really good with that history.
Shit, man, you really got me in.
Well, do you remember what decade it was?
It was in the 1930s where they had the first union thing was when this prevailing wages came in. That was the first thing that they really did.
Okay, all right.
And that was in the 1930s. It was signed by Hoover. Actually, he was a Republican. Actually, who signed the prevailing wages law. And but what specifically were you asking Tim? What specifically were you asking?
Well, what I'm trying to draw kind of a thing is based on my statement that liberty doesn't sell is that so if you're going to promise that kind of power to be given to let's say people that were heads of unions, or you're going to give that power to people that sell military stuff, weapons of war, and that kind of thing. And then you tailor your candidates based on their ability to bring that to the table, and that's a restriction that requires that you do something to other people. That you somehow you can't just get hired like back in the old days. You have to join this union, and the union's going to keep you black people out. We know that, so we know that if we make this requirement, we're going to gain our thing of propping up our white establishment. Because as you recall, as you used to tell us, the black workers were coming in and were able to take jobs away from the established white businesses.
The contractors.
And so, instead of upping their game, and they could do it for a lower price. And so people were hiring these new black businesses to do the job that they got for less of a price, for a cheaper price. So, and so instead of upping their game, instead of lowering their prices, they colluded to come up with these cockamamie, either union or whatever that other law was that you were talking about.
So it was, you're talking about, I'm sorry, I didn't realize what the act, you're talking about the Davis-Bacon Act. You're absolutely right about that. So what the Davis-Bacon Act was install these prevailing wages, because some of the contractors in the northern part of the United States was bringing in a cheaper black labor from the South. And then they came up with this thing about prevailing wages in order to keep the cheaper black labor out, and it would prop up, just like you said, prop up the contractors who only hiring the white labor force, the white labor at that time. So that was a kind of I think it was Walter Williams who said that the apartheid and the apartheid people in South Africa were more honest. The union people were more honest than here in the United States, because they used to say clearly what they wanted to do. They just wanted the wage high enough so that blacks could not participate in the marketplace like in a free market as it should have been. They wanted it high enough, and they said that quite clearly. But here in the United States, we come up with this thing about prevailing wages to disguise the very same effect that the unions were trying to have.
All right. So my point is that if it was a libertarian world, a liberty-based governance back then they wouldn't have made these laws to restrict this trade between companies using black labor and other companies.
Sure, it's true.
So it wouldn't exist. So then they would have had to compete in the marketplace. And
absolutely.
But
absolutely,
yes. No one makes money off of that, is my point. So they're going to put people in power that are going to give them special perks and privileges and stuff like that. And liberty-based people aren't going to do that.
Well, I think
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Trying to sell people something they take for granted, I think, is kind of hard, right? So like liberty, most of us assume we're free until we run into something that we can't do. Kind of like that quote from Frederick Douglass, where he said, "I never knew I was a slave until I found out there were things I couldn't do that I wanted to do."
Sure.
so
yeah, like build a bridge for less money than the white company will charge, for example.
Yeah, right.
I want to do that, or let's not even say white company. Let's say any other company. Let's say that everybody is in this scenario. This example, everybody's white, but so there's no racial thing there. So and this happens today, and so one company will do it for lesser price, and the old established company that's getting rooted out is going to come up with ways of trying to stop them. And the perfect example of that is ride sharing companies and the taxi medallion owners of major cities. So there's your example of that happening today, still happening, and happening really good in California with all the recent stuff they've done to restrict ride sharing companies.
Yeah.
Okay, there are few races in North Carolina. The Republican beat in the Senate. The Republican beat the Democrat. Woman, the Democrat is a woman the name of Sherry Beasley. She lost to Ted Budd, the Republican. In Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer beat Truda Dixon. Even though she ran a very good race and tried to made it very close, but it didn't work out for her.
Whew. Gosh, that's important. It felt like it would have been nice to see one of those blue stronghold governors who acted so badly during COVID. If one of them would have at least toppled, that would have been nice.
I was so hoping for that he wouldn't believe.
No, vote blue no matter who raises its ugly head, and then they've got them so scared of anybody else that
What percentage of that influence do you think exists today in that area? Just that one race, James.
Which one?
The one for governor, where whatever Leon was just talking about.
Or Michigan? Which one?
Whitmer is Michigan, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Whitmer is Michigan, and Hochul is New York.
Which one had the most totalitarian race?
So
Michigan did.
I
thought Michigan did.
Half your support doesn't really support you. So you're give or take 5 points either way. But half your support doesn't actually support you.
It's just about hate and fear of the other side.
Yeah.
That counts to me. My 26%, by the way, is what it was. So 13 of my 26% wasn't for me. Had nothing to do with me. They were voting against the other guy.
Yeah.
I could have been Mickey Mouse, and it wouldn't have mattered. They would have clicked my name.
Tim, you were asking about the Hochul and Whitmer, Whitmer. I don't know, which was worse during COVID. But the issue is that remember, Hochul was not there during the whole time during COVID. That was Cuomo who was there.
She was a lieutenant governor at the time, though.
Yeah, she was lieutenant governor, and then she became governor after they got rid of Handsy Cuomo.
That's right.
Yeah, but but Cuomo and her both had policies. Whitmore and Cuomo both had policies of shoving old folks, locking them into old folks' homes with people who had COVID, and having these horrendous death rates in those places. So.
Their supporters supported it, and so if their supporters aren't going to hold them accountable, because then they'd have to hold themselves accountable, and it's just not going to happen.
That's true.
Well, I think a lot of those people just love totalitarian rule. They love it. I mean, I know a lot of people that it's like everything they talk about leads me. I mean, maybe it's because I'm in the outside. I don't know if I'm even the outside looking in, because I've got my own prejudices myself toward freedom, but theirs seem to me to be a prejudice toward tyranny, toward despotism, because they've never seen a government solution they did not wrap their arms around and squeeze with all their might. They love every single thing the government comes up with, including you got to wear a mask and social distance, and it's for the safety of all.
Well, these are the same people who lose their minds if they lose the election too, and suddenly that tyrannical power is going to someplace else. Then it's like they tear their hair out, they light the streets on fire.
The government should have all kinds of power, as long as they're the ones making the decisions. If somebody else
exactly.
Well, that's non-democratic. Damn it!
Of course,
and when it's their guy who's making the decisions. that they finally wake up, it's by the time they're on the Maduro diet, like they're having in Venezuela, right? Where they're telling you to raise rabbits if you want to eat.
Yeah.
Trump didn't scare them enough about how the powers of big government, right?
Yeah.
If Trump didn't scare them about the power of big government, somebody may get in there that they don't like, and so you need to restrict, then nothing's going to, right? For them, Trump was the devil himself. And but yet it never occurred to them that, hey, maybe another devil's going to get in somewhere and we might want to restrict the power of this office. No. That was never the solution. It's, well, we'll manipulate the electoral process so that can never happen again. What makes you think that someone's not going to play the game you set up better than you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
This is what's so distressing, is that it's so clear that the moral solution is the libertarian solution, because what we're saying is, hey, we just keep it equal on both sides, where we just don't have that much power in government. So it doesn't matter who wins. You're not going to get abused by the other side, right? I mean, that's
my reply to that is, and this is, if you would like some solace in your your outlook about that, rest assured that this just continues to happen throughout history, and that's the whole 7 stages of empire, and we're in stage number 7, and you're watching the decline of the United States. And I'm sorry, however, the good thing is that so it's happening to the United States, but it's happened so many times in the past, and it keeps repeating. It's the same old thing. It's what is it? The other expression is strong men. Strong men beget good times. Good times beget weak men. Weak men beget bad times, and bad times beget good men. And then you're back into the cycle again. It's just a cycle, Jason.
Well, Tim, in that 7th stage of empire, I think the only thing that's missing for us is that there's no valuable metal in the coins to debase at this point.
Yeah, they've gone way beyond that, which I think is just digging a deeper hole, personally, because there's never been this level of debt in the history of mankind. Worldwide, it's never been this high. And then I see all this stuff, it's like, oh, we don't have to worry about inflation, or it's not as big a problem here in the United States because it's a worldwide phenomenon. No kidding. And does that have anything to do with the total level of debt throughout the world? Could that, because that has just gone up the same way it has here in the United States. And it's because all central banks just work off the dollar. And if the dollar's going up, everybody else has to go up.
Well, Tim, just to put an exclamation point on that, no valuable metal in the coins to debase at this point, we switched over from copper to zinc in pennies back in 1984. So we shot past. we weren't trying to get the copper out of coins. That the jig is up at that point.
Yeah. You're starting to see a problem.
Jason, we'll get plastic pennies. We used to use bottle caps.
I'm
sure.
For
those of you who played Fallout, you'll know about the bottle caps thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, if the whole thing is basically based on nothing, it's all fiat. I mean, what's the difference? It could be a lot of technological abilities to make that particular nickel or whatever it was they used. That was cheaper, whatever it was.
But they filled zinc into copper-coated pennies, so that talk about deceptive. They don't even just put the crap metal on the outside. Right. They coat it in copper so that you don't know the difference. But you can actually, if you hold those pennies, if you have a 1980, I think it's 84. It's either 84 or 82 that they made the switch. But if you take, say, a 1980 penny and you take a 1985 penny and you hold them, you can feel the difference in the mass because you've got this lighter weight zinc. Yeah.
Zinc. Yeah.
And if you go far enough back to like Indian head pennies, you can see they're about twice as thick in copper too. So, I mean, it's...
Well, so basically the government was counterfeiting their counterfeit.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
When the government is
so
skimming copper, that's the the jig is up.
But it could be partly because technologically they were able to do that with zinc and have it, last long enough because it has to be able to, go in people's pockets and jingle around and all that kind of stuff.
The reason is because the nominal value of the copper in the penny became worth more than the penny. And what happened is, if
they
you
had
literally, once it becomes worth 3 cents worth of copper and your penny's only worth 1, you're going to get truckloads of penny and just melt them all down.
Right.
Sell them as copper.
They'll melt them down and get the copper out and sell it for a profit or whatever. Yeah. I get you there. True. Let's see. I don't know what that has to do with the price of chi in China, but anyway, there we are. I'm out of ideas. I don't even know where I was going with my last idea. What's that?
It inflates the price of tea in China is what it does.
Yeah.
Even I just want to point out that even all the early house calls from California didn't help Democrats all that much.
Really? Oh, wow.
Because, California polls closed, an hour ago.
About half an hour. About 40 minutes ago. 40 minutes ago.
California seats, right? We're already going to go blue, right? We already knew that before you vote the election. But we still only have 133 seats. Republicans have 176.
Oh. Okay.
And so half of California is already done. Where's Democrats going to pick up anywhere close to 200?
Huh.
So it's
whoever hit 218 first have the majority. So
yeah, but if Democrats can't even get 200, so that means Republicans are what, 235, something like that.
Well, if the Democrats make 200, then if the Democrats make 200, Republicans will get 235 about.
So it wouldn't surprise me if Republicans end up with 240.
I think they're gonna make 240, but I think more like 233, somewhere around there.
Maybe I'm wrong. I just don't see where Democrats are going to get 70 seats from, 65 seats from, whatever it is now.
I know.
I just don't see where they're going to get it. They were counting on California's, and only half of California's came in early. Now, granted, all those close California races could still go Democrats' way, but
it's true. That's absolutely true.
I'm looking at the AP site, and I really don't have a good breakdown on the individual races here, but they do just have sort of a counter there. And at the moment, they have the Senate with 44 Democrats in the Senate, and then 45 Republicans in the Senate. So I guess there's still 11 seats that haven't been decided at this point. So
CNN has 46.
Okay. So, but that is CNN, so I think I trust AP. And I'm sure it's mostly peaceful election over there on their side.
Yeah, of course.
It's a fiery but mostly peaceful election.
Yeah.
So let's see.
On the House side, AP has 104 at Democrats at the moment and 161 for Republicans at the moment. So with the balance undecided there.
Fox News is saying about the same thing.
CNN has 135 to 178.
Okay.
I'm assuming CNN probably threw in all the California ones. That's what I'm assuming happened.
Or most of them. Maybe not all of them, but most of them.
Not all of them, because it's not enough, but a chunk of half of California's or whatever it is. What does California get? What, 30? What is it, 43, 38, something like that? I forget how many assembly seats we get.
52 or 53. Either 52 or 53.
So CNN's just trying to make their Democrat viewers feel a little better about themselves.
Well, it's gonna end up that way in the end anyway. It is what it is. California.
I am gonna be right back here. I'll be back in a second.
Well, now that Jason's gone, is there any gossip we can talk about Jason about?
Oh yes, let's gossip about Jason. Good idea. Good idea.
Yeah,
I cannot think of anything myself.
we
I
could
can think
talk
of
about his hair. We could talk about his hairstyle.
I could think about a few if James was gone, but he's still here.
You can talk about me when I'm here. It's all good.
I knew you'd say that.
I don't mind.
All righty. Well, I don't know. I guess I'm just teasing.
Even though I give this Whitmer Dixman thing credit, Whitmer didn't win by nearly as much as she should have.
Yeah, I know. I mean, all of the races are closer than normal. I mean, even New York races, I think it's 11 points or 12 points or something. That usually that governor's race is usually 20, 25 points or something like that. So
well, Minnesota's still 16-point difference. So, but California will be that same kind of way. California will be a bloodbath.
They already called the Newsom to win re-election anyway. They already called.
Yeah, what was that score?
That was what Tim? What was that?
I'm just wondering what the amounts were. I can maybe see it here.
I don't have that in front of me.
Well, Oliver has 10% of the vote right now in the Georgia Senate race.
What is that?
Oliver, the Libertarian candidate in the Walker, what's his name race? He's got 2%.
Yeah, he may be a spoiler.
He probably is. He probably is, because the last thing I heard that in that race, I think Walker was leading by like 600, 700 votes or something like that. And so they're going to end up in a runoff.
Yeah.
And I think in December, I think.
They're going to do it again.
Yeah. So wherever that 2% go, that person will end up in the Senate.
The Democrat Shapiro won Pennsylvania, they say.
Yeah, big in a big way too. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's the typical almost 2-3 majority toward Democrats. Gavin, 62.3% as a percentage of the vote, and this other guy, the Republican, 37.7%. So right in that 2-3 zone. Once again, surprise, surprise, the Democrat wins by a margin of 2-1.
Well, it's going to get worse because everybody who's not Democrat is leaving.
That's right. Yeah, it probably will get worse. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for leaving the fight.
Yeah, that's probably has something to do with why the margins are so big now in Florida as well, because so many Republicans have migrated there. So,
that's a good point.
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
So it's almost like maybe this hurt in the long run in some of these places, because if some of these people had stuck it out and just voted their misery in these other places, they might have gotten rid of Hochul. Maybe which one of others.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we've been on an hour and a half now, so
yeah.
All right.
I've reached my limit.
Well,
all right.
I guess I was going to make one comment, but I can do it. I could stay on just a little bit longer if you.
No, go ahead. It's fine. I mean, I'm not going to get him and run away. Go ahead.
Well, the only thing I was going to say is that earlier a comment was made about why everybody was so depressed. When these things come out, and that maybe we shouldn't be, and getting back to that debt chart we were showing, and the fact that we're closing in on. We're already over 31 trillion, I think, and we're closing in. If we keep going, at higher and higher levels of debt, if you think about what that means, if we're in a country of roughly 300 million people, that we've talked about this on the show before, but that's $100,000 a person if you spread that around the evenly over everybody, and that doesn't include unfunded liabilities like Social Security and such. So, you start adding those things in, and we owe all over $200,000. I think it's around
That's
250
federal debt. That's not counting your state and local debt either.
Yeah. Which in California, we were just lucky to be bailed out by the Biden administration. If Trump had won, I'm not sure we'd be sitting as rosy as we've sat in California this last year or so, because Biden essentially bailed out all the Democrat states that decided to be unproductive during COVID.
Yeah,
So
I think, wasn't it our budget, our collections are lower than expected in California, if I remember a recent news article.
yeah, it doesn't surprise me. But if you think about what this means, though, these debts are getting almost into fantasy land, and the idea that we shouldn't feel bad. I mean, I almost feel like we're like Thelma and Louise. We've gone off the cliff, and we're sort of levitating in air right before the drop to the bottom. Like the coyote when he heads over the cliff. I think I've heard what do you call it, Peter Schiff make a comment like that before or something. But yeah, I mean, it just feels like we're in just fantasy land numbers here, and it's almost like as a nation we should feel collectively alarmed by these numbers, and we're not. It's just like we just keep on voting and keep on going ahead with the next time thing, just assuming it's all going to work out. And maybe these inflation numbers are some warning signs that, hey, the ship is starting to sink. So.
Yeah, well, California's starting to sink. Here, I pulled up a quick article. This is from October 29th from
Did you want to share it?
Right. There's an 80% chance California will be about $8 billion short when the fiscal year ends next summer, according to the Legislative Analyst Office. The tax collections have fallen below expectations for 4 months in a row.
And so if there's I
just got my Visa card for a little tax refund. I just got it in the mail yesterday. I went down and I bought an avocado with it, and a couple of other things.
And avocados have been on sale.
You get some avocado toast.
I did. Yeah, I'll go show you. I'm not, so I'm not bluffing. I actually do have an avocado right here. I bought some chocolate and a few other things. And
but
here's my avocado. What I bought today. All right, with my tax money returned to me in this little credit card, debit card actually, that comes from, it's a Visa, and look, it's even got the California bear. So this was our money that we had.
So the government, the state government, I presume, sent that to you?
Yeah, it's part of. I kept the letter. It's part of basically they collected too much tax and they had a surplus, so they're giving some of it back to us. If you don't make, so it's all graduated like everything else. Like
I imagine they're sending plenty to the prisons like last time.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
10 million for
the prisons.
I'm sure they are.
To the prisons and all to them Nigerian scammers and everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, if you worked for the credit card company, dish those out and send them out. You'd be tempted. You'd be tempted to make a little side money.
Just think, though, I mean, if we're 8 billion short, and if we are having other big economic problems heading into the future with the state, there's going to be most likely a Republican Congress this next time around. So they're not nearly as likely to be signing off on checks for Biden to bail out blue states.
Yeah.
So
they'll bail out Texas and Florida instead.
Well, with Biden there, they won't do that either because he won't sign off on that.
Well, so there's that. So, hey, there you go. Yes, victory.
Yeah, that's right. It'll be bail out everybody.
That's what happened under Trump. He just bailed out everybody. Just printing money. So yes.
So James, what does your total say for the breakdown with especially in the House? What does your total say?
CNN is 146 Democrats, 181 Republicans.
Oh, okay.
And it's 46-46 Senate.
Okay.
According to CNN.
Well, Fox is saying 45-45 in the Senate, but they're saying 114 for the Democrats and 168 for the Republicans.
Yeah, I think CNN's counting California and the other ones aren't.
California, it must be.
Yeah. And AP has 46 Republicans in the Senate at this point too. So
okay. 46.
46. Yeah,
46.
for Republicans in the Senate. So it's 46 to 45 there.
And what about the House?
It's 168 for Republicans to 115. It just changed to Democrats.
Okay.
Yeah. So my guess is you just haven't counted California on those other states yet.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Okay.
This has been fun.
Well, if you're watching and you've sat through this with
well, we've had some viewers come in and out, so we sat down with us for 15 minutes at a time. So we've had that. But if you're rewatching this, tell us why.
There you go. That's a good one.
Yeah, we would like to know. I mean, even if it's for comic relief.
Yes.
Well,
I'm listening to you on my smuggled prison cell phone. Yeah, whatever it is, let us know.
But if you're watching us now, we've had some interesting guests in the past. We've got some interesting guests coming up. We're going to be interviewing FIRE next week. That's the oh gosh, what does FIRE stand for? Essentially, they support free speech on campuses. So they're the ones who have essentially taken up the ACLU's charge, to defend free speech nowadays. And we're going to be interviewing the Acton Institute coming up pretty soon too, and the North Carolina Charter Schools Association, I believe so. I may have bungled some of those names, but they're all coming up in the coming weeks, and we are looking to get more guests too. So, keep looking because we're hoping to have a new guest every week. So I can't think of anything else. You guys want to say anything?
Well, yeah, I hope that we someday interview a representative of the American Honk Tonk Bar Association.
Well, set that up, Doctor.
Yeah, you've got a quest.
Well, Tim, we're still waiting for Tim to reach out to Tulsi Gabbard. So
I know, and you were supposed to get me a link tonight.
Oh yeah, well here I'm doing it. That's the wrong link. Anyway, I'll do that. I'll figure that one out.
Tim, do what you have to do. Get on your knees, do jumping jacks out on the street in front of her window.
Yeah. I don't. I honestly, I don't.
He will be going crazy. He will be going crazy.
There's a movie with John Cusack called "Say Anything," and you just hold a boombox over your head and stand outside her window.
I don't think I've ever actually. Well, I guess I have. I guess I've tried to get a woman to do something for me in the past. I suppose I have. I have to say I'm guilty of that. But
if you're a viewer and you've tuned out already, get back in. It's getting exciting.
But Tulsi Gabbard represents to me the top of the heap of difficult women to get to do what I'd like her to do, which is to come on our show. And for me to be able to do that, oh my God, I don't think I have it in me, but I will give it my best shot.
There you go.
Well, here you go, Tim. In the chat.
There you go.
Okay, in the chat.
With that,
there it is.
All right,
gentlemen. Good night.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and hopefully we'll see some liberty-oriented results tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
All right. See you guys later.
See you later. Take care.
Guys. Okay. Bye-bye.